It's Mac and Perry in the place. Da-na-na-na. Mac and Perry
go live to create.
Da-na-na-na. Mac and Perry invite you to stay. Welcome to TELUS STORYHIVE's On Location here in Medicine Hat at Art Room on 2nd. I'm Mike.
I'm Daniel J. Perryman, and this is...
I'm Erin Stelmaschuk Biegel.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for agreeing to chat with us, Erin.
Yes.
I'm really excited to learn about your artistic practice and talk about some of your pieces. We do have some icebreaker games to get to know you, but just at the very top, maybe you could just tell us a little about the art that you do.
For sure. I work predominantly with copper. This is some of my work back here. And I worked with copper for over 25 years. Yeah. I was first introduced to it in art school, and it was just really well received. And when I did post-secondary, I went back to that medium. And I also paint and love to play with clay and things like that, but copper is really my go-to medium.
Nice, oh, that's great. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm really excited to learn about that artistic journey, and then of course, talk about the process, because that's such a unique thing. So it's gonna be great. But first, I guess this icebreaker segment, we just want to get to know you a little bit.
Okay.
And so we'll play some games, ask some questions just to get you warmed up, and it'll be fun. It doesn't have to be about your artistic practice necessarily. So the first one we have a little bit of trivia. How are you at trivia?
Hit and miss.
Okay, yeah.
We'll see how I am this morning.
Okay, yeah, so it's very basic. We have some Medicine Hat trivia, and then we have some questions about Daniel and myself that we'll have to answer some trivia too. So I guess I will ask the first Medicine Hat trivia question. Okay. This is one of my favorites. Rich in natural resources, including natural gas, coal, clay, and farmland, the town of Medicine Hat became industrialized and was known in the early days, we're going way back, as A, the Fort Worth above the 49th, B, the Pittsburgh of the West, C, the Memphis of the North, or D, the Phoenix of the Prairies. Back in the day, what would they have called it?
I'm gonna guess A.
A, the Fort Worth above the 49th. Yeah, close. It was actually B, the Pittsburgh of the West.
Ah, the Pittsburgh,
all those natural resources. yeah, it's all good. So now we will do a trivia question with Daniel about Medicine Hat. So he's going to ask you another Medicine Hat trivia question. That's how I've decided to do it this time. We'll go with that.
Awesome. My piece of trivia for you, Erin, is as follows. According to Environment and Climate Change Canada, Medicine Hat is the sunniest city in Canada, averaging how many hours of sunlight per year? A, 1,822, B, 1,989, C, 2,050, or D, 2,554.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna throw a whole bunch of numbers at me. I'm gonna guess C.
C is a solid guess. It was D, 2,554, which was the largest number. Lots of sunshine in Medicine Hat, basically.
Nice, yeah, there we go, yeah. And so next we have our trivia that we've written about each other, which I gave you.
Yeah.
So let's do the question for me about Daniel, so it'll be this one actually.
Okay.
So you'll ask me this question that I don't know about Daniel. We'll see if I can get it right.
Okay, so how many times has Daniel worn a handcrafted hat on a film set? A, once, B, never, C, 10 times, or D, 3 times?
Well, that's a very specific question, Daniel. A handcrafted hat on a film set. I'm not sure what constitutes handcrafted. Film set, sure, that makes sense. Oh boy. I feel like he wouldn't say never because that would just be silly. So I'm gonna say once. Was that A or was it A once?
A was once.
Yeah, I'm gonna say he one time wore a handcrafted hat on a film set. What was the answer, Daniel? Or you? No, sorry, you're telling me. What was the answer, Erin?
He's laughing. It was never.
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 Okay. Well, I hope that he has an opportunity to, at one point, wear a handcrafted hat on a film set. I look forward to that photo. All right, that's good. All right, well, hey, sometimes I get them wrong.
Yeah, well, we're 0 for 3 here.
Right, yeah, we're not doing good today. All right, so now we have a trivia question about me for Daniel that you're going to ask him.
Okay, part of my artistic practice involves adorning Western hats with copper. Michael has only ever owned one Western hat, which he got as a teenager while his father was performing as a musician at which event? A, Cardston's Heritage Days, B, Pincher Creek's Pro Rodeo, C, Whoop Up Days, or D, the Calgary Stampede?
This is also a very themed question. I'm gonna have to go with Whoop Up Days. I think that was D. Is that right?
So D was the Calgary Stampede.
I will go with Whoop Up Days, whichever one that was.
Okay, so that was C, but the answer is D, the Calgary Stampede.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah. Whoop Up Days are Lethbridge kind of summer event, but yes, it was the Calgary Stampede. So there we go. Both got them all wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
That's fine.
That doesn't make me feel so bad then.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, yeah. We try to throw each other off, so at least that's what I try to do. I don't know. Nice. Yeah, that's our little trivia. We're done with the trivia for now. So the next one is called This or That, and that's where we have our little hat because we're in Medicine Hat. It only works when we're here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is the This or That. So we have questions that have just two different answers. So it could be coffee or tea, cats or dogs. And then we just talk about it if you're a coffee person or a dog person and try to connect and learn about you. And we'll also kind of all three of us will answer if it's appropriate. So yeah, so I will have you pick the first one, why not? And I will start with the answer, I guess.
Okay. Stay in or go out?
Good one. That's a great question. Thank you for asking. If I had to pick one, I would say go out. Sometimes I'm kind of a stay inside, read a book mood, but generally getting outside, I like to do lots of hiking and camping and biking and walking and being outside. So whatever the weather, get me outside. How about yourself?
That's kind of a hard one. Same thing. I really like to be outdoors and hiking and camping, but I'm also staying in if I have an opportunity to stay in for like a quiet evening because I'm pretty busy. I really, really appreciate those nights too.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it can't always be one or the other. You can't just live outside.
It's got to be both, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'll throw it to Daniel. Why not? If you have an opinion on this one, Daniel.
I'm in the same boat as Erin. I do enjoy being outside, but maybe in small doses. So I would probably say stay in. And I love just watching movies and just hanging out. Yeah.
Great, nice, good stuff. All right, I will pick one, and I will. I guess I'll have you answer first. What's this one? Okay, truck or car? What do you prefer?
Oh, a truck.
Yeah.
I'm a farm girl, so yeah, definitely truck. Yeah, I like to be able to haul things around and be able to go adventurous places if we're camping and pull things like trailers and stuff like that. So yeah, truck is definitely my first choice.
Absolutely, makes sense, yeah. And for me, I think mostly being more of a city person, I would say, usually a car is my go-to if I'm driving somewhere. But my dad has a 1966 Dodge truck that he's had for forever. He dated my mom in that truck. And so, often I learned to drive on that truck and, borrow it if I need to haul some stuff or whatever. But trucks are very useful, yeah. All right. Daniel doesn't get to answer this one. Ha ha. We'll do another this or that.
Oh, cottage or mansion?
Another good one, yeah. So I would say more of a cottage. I like smaller spaces, smaller houses, cute little kind of cozy places. So I would say a cottage, especially if it was like somewhere like we'll say a cabin in the woods, more of a cottage than a cottage. But somewhere small and quaint would be great. A big house I don't really have a use for. But how about yourself?
I would say my answer is pretty much exactly the same. Yeah, definitely like a cottage or a cabin or like a smaller home. I think mansions are really cool to visit. And they'd be really fun to decorate, lots of walls for art. Sure. But where I would like to live would be a smaller, kind of more quaint place. Yeah. And like cleaning a big house and so much upkeep. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I'll throw this one to Daniel to learn about his preferences. What do you think? Big or small?
I would go small. I would also go with the cottage. Maybe we could have them all next to each other in a little neighborhood. That's what I would do.
Nice. I would want mine like further away from Daniel's. All right. Nice. Yeah, good. We're all cottage people, cottage industries. Good. Let's do one more this or that, and then we can switch it up. Did I ask that one, or did you ask that one?
I asked that one.
Good. I will now ask this one. Great. Last this or that. What do we have here? Oh, interesting. Eclectic or modern? What kind of aesthetic do you go for?
Oh, definitely eclectic.
Yeah?
Yeah, yeah. I think because like collecting art and collecting different pieces, it has to be what you love. And I feel that modern is like more curated. Yeah, so I would definitely say eclectic. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, for myself, yeah, I actually would steer towards more modern. If I'm looking at like, yeah, the first thing that comes to mind even when we were talking about houses is like the house design, and I would say, yeah, more modern aesthetic. I'm not as much an eclectic person, but that's just my preference. Yeah, we'll throw it back to Daniel one more time. What do you think?
I am somewhere in the middle. I don't know if I can decide between them, so I'll be the middle ground. I enjoy eclectic things. Being from the UK, older houses are there. There's that side of things, but I get what Erin is saying about the kind of curated side and modern things and being specific. But it sounds like you can also do that with eclectic things. So yeah, I'll throw it back to you.
There we go. Nice. Good stuff. Got a good mix. Yeah, all right, so that's a this or that game. And then we'll move on to our Tumbling Towers game. So have you played Tumbling Towers before?
I have played Jenga.
Yeah,
but
same thing.
Same thing.
Same
Okay.
thing, different
Gotcha.
name.
Gotcha.
But basically with this one, so what we did is we added these numbers, and each one corresponds to a question on my little clipboard here. And yeah, so they're open-ended questions like, what's your perfect day look like? Yeah, basically, if you've played this game before, technically you can't go from the top three, and then you'll pull it out and then put it on top, and yeah, we'll answer. So why don't you go ahead and pick a tile. And yeah, feel free to poke around, and you don't have to commit to the first one that you grab.
21.
If you could travel in time, when would you go?
Oh, that's a interesting question. When would I go? Well, I'd probably experience something that wasn't in my lifetime. I think the Victorian age has always looked really interesting, and I've enjoyed reading about books that are from that era. So yeah, I'd probably maybe check that out.
Okay, yeah. What kind of draws you to that era, do you think?
I don't know. I think that like the clothing, like the costumes, like all the layers that went with it, and like horse-drawn carriages, like much simpler time, not being all the advances that we have now. Yeah, I think that would be kind of cool to experience.
Absolutely, yeah. Nice. Oh, that's great. That'd be fun, yeah. Yeah, I think for myself, just what comes to mind off the top of my head, like, yeah, maybe I don't remember what decade the Victorian era was, but I was thinking, like, I was reading a book about exploration and like the explorers in like 16 something or 17 something, and yeah, how like difficult those times were, and like it's amazing some of the like how far they got, especially on water and stuff. So I think briefly I would like to be on one of those ships just to see what it was like, and to see what, especially that like idea of like just into the unknown, like all of our world is basically all discovered already. So that idea of like you're going somewhere that you've never been and maybe no one has been, or very few people, and so I think that'd be fun for a while. I mean, until you get scurvy or something. But yeah, why not? I'll throw it to Daniel. When would you go? If you could travel in time.
Oh, I've had this conversation with my dad, and he pointed out that like, what point in history wasn't plagued by like war or all these things? But I even with that, I threw out just the idea of like the Renaissance, and just where all these new things are going on, seemingly new for those people, and yeah, just go like way back. And just see what that was like. Assuming we can come back from this, of course, that's where I would go.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's like a weekend holiday kind of thing. I'm not spending years on that ship the rest of my life. It's fine. Yeah, nice. All right. Yeah, I will pick a tile now. Find a good one. That's not. Oh, yeah, these middle ones are nice. All right. Number 18. 18 is. I like this question. I like them all because we came up with them mostly. What is something that takes a lot of time but it's definitely worth it?
Well, first thing that comes to mind is making art. Second thing is raising kids. I've got 3 kids. And it's definitely worth it. I think that you go through a lot of phases with them that go from being tough to easier and kind of back and forth. But now that I have a child who's an adult, I think all those stages were definitely worth it. Yeah, yeah. And it takes a lot of time. Like, she's 19 and it just seemed to happen in a flash, but it was 19 years ago, so yeah.
That's lovely, that's great. Nice. My answer's not nearly as deep as that, because I don't have children. But I understand that, it could be, that's very rewarding, for sure, for me, what comes to mind, like lately I've been doing a lot more walking. Like we had a big snowstorm, big cold snap, and I just didn't drive. I'm like, I'm just gonna walk. And it took more time, but it was more time to like think as well, and more creative time, and you're processing thoughts, and it feels less efficient because I'm not getting somewhere faster. But that's not really the point. And so I really enjoyed just walking to my instead of running errands, walking errands, and that takes some time, but I think it's worth it. And also just the benefits of just getting outside, walking.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, sunshine.
Yeah, why not? I'm going to throw it to Daniel again. What would you? Something takes time. What's worth it?
Something that works for me is stretching. It's just one of those things that it takes time. You just got to do it. It's like working out, but less sweat. And I think it's worth it in the long run, thinking about longevity and just being able to move and use your body. And so that's something I would say that just takes time and consistency, but that I think is worth it. Back to you.
Good stuff. Yeah. I think we've got time for like one more tile. If you want to pull that out, we'll do one more round.
Let's see here.
Ooh, nice. That looked good. That's a good one.
Number 2.
2. Oh, okay. That's very open. Actually, I think it was my example. Is what does your perfect day look like?
My perfect day, I think that I would be at home. I would have a really good chunk of studio time. I'd probably like to get some fresh air, go for a walk through one of the fields or the coulees around our place, and then have a really good meal with my family. Those are kind of days that I really look forward to. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds lovely. Yeah. I think I would feel very similar. Yeah, it'd be, time to create for sure, absolutely. But also time, I also like to get outside, go to the mountains, spend time with my partner and our 4 cats. And cook together. I always enjoy cooking with people and sharing a meal and taking the time to just chat and hang out and not be rushed. Sounds like a good day.
Yeah, not have to look at the clock at all.
Right.
Just eat when you're hungry. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice, good stuff. All right, well, I think that's all the time we have for this segment, so I've really enjoyed the icebreakers and getting to know you a little bit. So this has been TELUS Storyhives on location here at Medicine Hat at Art Room on 2nd. I'm Michael Bartz.
I'm Daniel J. Perryman, and this is
Erin Stelmaschuk Biegel.
All right, and we'll be right back. Welcome to TELUS STORYHIVE On Location here in Medicine Hat at Art Room on 2nd. I'm Michael Bartz.
I'm Daniel J. Perryman, and this is
Erin Stelmaschuk Biegel.
Great. Yeah. So I really enjoyed our icebreaker segment with you, Erin, get to know you a little bit. But this focuses on your art and your artistic practice. So we always like to do what we call the interview and just learn about your artistic journey and kind of where you came from and where you're going and talk about that. So I think, although you kind of said at the very beginning of the first segment, I'll get you kind of to talk about, what sort of art you do.
Sure. So I predominantly work with copper, and it's kind of technically called copper tooling. So the copper is really thin sheets of metal, and the image is pressed out from the front and the back. So you keep flipping it over to press the image out. So the copper is lightweight enough that you don't have to hammer it. And that really appeals to me. I think that if it was something where I was like hammering or tapping away, I don't think I would have quite been drawn to it as much as I am. And everything's an original. All the pieces I do are by hand. There's no templates or copies or anything like that I do. So that makes it quite unique as well, not only with the medium, but with that as well.
Absolutely, yeah. It's very unique and very striking. And I'm really curious, like when we get to the showcase, like the actual process around it. But for what I was curious about was also like going back, like let's say when you were younger, like when did you start first making art?
First making art when I was very little. It was kind of my favorite thing to do. I would lay on the floor and draw and draw and draw. And then my first studio, I say, was behind the big chair in the living room. And I would like have all my materials back there, and I would like even like paper mache back there and paint and make all kinds of things. Just since I was little, that's what I was always drawn to, was creating.
And was your family creative at all, or?
Not, my mom and dad, not overly. My mom like quilted and did some crafts like that. My dad could definitely draw. He didn't spend time doing it, but the few times that I remember him sitting with me and drawing, I was always kind of blown away by his animals and stuff like that. But it kind of skipped a generation because my mom's mom and her uncle were very creative. They were fine artists and more the hobby than the occupation, but they were really committed to it and did a lot of creating.
And what sort of like art were they making?
They did a lot of watercolors and painting. My uncle, who lived out in Victoria, did a lot of open air work with different groups and boats in the sea, and that's what I kind of remember of his.
Neat, nice. Well, that's great. And so you're very young. Your first studio at home there. I guess like what came next in your artistic journey that you can remember from?
Art class in high school and industrial arts was kind of my saving grace. That's what really kind of kept me there and was what I really looked forward to each week. All of the other classes were kind of a bit of a slog to get through. Fine arts I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the drafting portion of that. And we did, I learned how to work a lathe, and that was the first time that I played with clay and played on the wheel. Photography, developed all of our own photographs, learned the darkroom. So for industrial arts was really great. And then also my art class is where I was first introduced to the copper. So we had a really cool art teacher, and he just had this big roll of copper, and he would cut us off chunks of it, and then he collected all of the calendar pages from years past with different images on it. So when he taught us how to do it, we would have that image on top of the piece of copper, and then we would trace it out. When you took it off, you had, kind of a rudimentary drawing of what you were starting with. And then he taught us how to tool it and press it from the front and the back. And then right now, I use a chemical patina to create the depth in my pieces. But back in high school, we were using Indian ink, say, and you would paint it on, and then rub it off, and it stayed in all the recessed areas.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it was quite early on then that you were introduced to copper. Yeah, was that where you went to school? Was that something that was typical, or was that for that particular teacher wanted to introduce that?
I think it was that particular teacher. Yeah, I think it was him. They also used to have copper tooling kits that you could get, and I think that just the age that he probably did those kits when he was a little boy, and then I'm assuming he was maybe more interested in it, and then got a roll of copper and wanted to do bigger pieces, and he was obviously a very creative guy.
Yeah. It's something I've never really seen. So is that something that would have been like something people did generations before? It was more common, the copper tooling?
I think so, because there was these kits, and they would be different images, sort of Western, and yeah, I think Western images are kind of mainly. I've only ever heard about them from other people. When I'm showing art, if I'm traveling, lots of people, older generations than I am, will come up to me and say, "Oh yeah, I used to do this when I was a kid, and there was kits, and it all got laid out, and same thing, you pressed it, and then the copper was thin enough that you would go from the front and the back and press the image out." So,
Interesting. So, yeah, maybe some of that Western connection too.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's definitely a metal that you see quite a bit in Western decor, Western fashion, with like jewelry and home decor with the copper sinks and fixtures and fume heads and stuff like that you see. So yeah, I think it all kind of ties together.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Yeah. And because I know you grew up north of Grand Prairie, right? In like a rural area.
Yeah.
And yeah. Did that influence your artistic practice at all?
Oh, definitely. Most of my artwork is nature inspired. It's very lush in northern Alberta. It's beautiful, and we spent a lot of time outdoors growing up, camping and hiking, and we lived quite far out of town. We spent a lot of time down at the river, and so that was my main inspiration. And I was always quite taken by the landscape, like the whole panoramic view, but then I also really loved to focus in on like every individual leaf and plant and the textures of it and the structure and what made it up and such. So yeah, definitely nature inspired.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, and so you were introduced to that industrial art in high school. So did you find that like copper art kind of stood out to you at that point?
It did. More so when I did my post-secondary at Grant MacEwan. I kept playing with that medium, and nobody else was doing that there, right? So it really stood out at that point. And then after I was done post-secondary and I started showing some of my work, the copper was just really well received. People really wanted to talk to me about it, and they were very drawn to it, whereas like they wouldn't realize it was copper right off the bat, right? So they would really come into the piece to have a good look at what the medium was, and it was an instant conversation starter.
Oh, neat. Yeah. And I guess because you went to Grant MacEwan, was that kind of the next step in your journey after high school?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And what led you to going there?
Yeah, I think that it was, well, relatively close to home. Edmonton is 6 hours from where I grew up. But for a fine art program, I think that was just one that appealed to me. Their campus was separate from the Grant MacEwan main campus. So going from a very small town to a big city, that felt a little less daunting. So yeah, I think that was probably one of the main reasons I chose that. And then I got in too. That was was part of it as well. So
of course, yeah. And you said you were focusing on copper a lot in your studies there, but I'm also just curious because a lot of times with post-secondary, there's a lot of exploration or learning or things.
Yes.
I'm curious maybe how that time maybe influenced your artistic practice.
Yeah, it was a lot more exploration. Me continuing on with the copper was kind of at the end of the program, but before that, it was a lot more photography. We were still, developing all of our own film, a lot more sculpture, Focused a lot on drawing, large-scale drawing, a lot of figurative drawing, a lot of life drawing. What else did we do there? Yeah, it was a wide variety. Yeah, and definitely influenced me. Gave me a lot more confidence having that schooling behind me, and yeah, I really played with a lot more mediums. Met a lot of really cool people. My instructors were phenomenal, and they all had really different backgrounds of where their art had taken them and where they were showing and what they were doing with their art. We were also, like, we went to every art show that there was, every opening, right? And yeah, we were just exposed to a lot more art and different ways of incorporating it into life. Because not all of my instructors' art was saleable. They were doing a lot of conceptual pieces. So that was interesting. That was a real eye-opener from someone that was from a really small town.
Yeah, that you could make art that wouldn't necessarily be just for consumption.
Yeah, for sure. Growing up in Fairview, we had a great fine art center, which I also spent a lot of time at. Sculpting, I did a lot of clay there, and showing. That's where I first was hanging shows with other artists, and had an opportunity to show my work. Yeah, so that was kind of an initial step for me as well.
And so that would have been before you went to Grant MacEwan? Or?
Kind of both. I took classes at the Fine Arts Center before I went to Grant MacEwan, and then when we moved back up north after I graduated, that's when I had some shows there and was spending a lot more time on my own there. And taught a few classes as well there. So
nice. Because I assume, like, because Fairview is a smaller city.
It's a small town.
Small town. Yeah. So would that have been like unique to a place like that, to have like a center like that in your town?
I would say that it would be unique. I'm trying to think of a few of the other small centers around us, and I don't think that any of them really would have had a fine arts center like that. Grand Prairie, definitely. Peace River had a really good arts community. But yeah, I think that that's something that small towns really have to cultivate, because it is important, and it just doesn't happen. You need to have a group of people that keep that alive, and that's their work is keeping a center like that, or a hub like that, for the public, for students, for kids, for the community. It makes a stronger community.
Absolutely, yeah. Is that center still going?
It sure is.
Good,
yeah,
good.
it sure is. Yeah.
Nice, yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, it totally makes sense. That's really important.
Yeah.
Especially in smaller places where people, maybe don't have access to, like you said, the Grant MacEwan experience.
Yeah, for sure. And for people like myself, who the arts were really my thing. You know, if I didn't have that in our high school program, in our community, I don't know what I would have gravitated towards.
Hope you fit in a bit.
Yeah. Gives you a place.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah. Great. I guess like moving on in your journey. So after post-secondary, like you mentioned, you did teach some classes back home. But I guess what came next once you graduated from Grant MacEwan?
I was really trying to find my place as an artist. I did sign painting and advertising and some sort of craft sales. There was a group, or there still is a group, called the Night of Artists, which were based out of Edmonton. And I got involved with that group, and it was really instrumental in me taking on fine art as my career. So a great group of artists. We traveled from Victoria to Ottawa showing together. It was headed up by Phil Elaine, who now has the Night of Artists Gallery in Edmonton. And that's his hub now that he works from, and again, supporting many artists. Like I would say hundreds of thousands of, just tons of artists in the years that he's done that. So they were a really instrumental group for me. And he brought the show up to Northern Alberta. We did shows in Grand Prairie and Fairview up to Manning. And then, like I said, traveled from Victoria to Ottawa with it. So that was really instrumental for me.
Yeah. Well, I've got several questions about that. Yeah, and so what specifically do you think it was about that group that was so instrumental for you?
Well, it was the support. You were with other artists. You were all supporting each other, advertising for each other. These shows, your circles overlapped, and that's how you got. The shows were sold out. Phil really set it up so that it wasn't intimidating like some people might feel coming into a gallery. He would have live music and food, and it was a one-night kind of party with all this amazing fine art. He would pick cool venues. So we were supporting each other and just creating venues for ourselves. Right? When you're a beginning artist, it's really difficult to get into a gallery, right? And to even know how to go about doing that. It wasn't something that they taught at post-secondary. So that was a key part for me, definitely. And then my work was really well received. I was predominantly working with copper at that point. I would have some paintings that I was taking with me to shows. You had a lot more exposure. Galleries were coming to these shows. That's how I got into the Adele Campbell Gallery in Whistler. And you just had exposure that you wouldn't have if you were on your own, if you were solo trying to do those things. Yeah.
Oh, that's great, yes. What a lovely experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned touring across the country, basically, almost a lot of it. So were you actually physically going, on the road?
Yeah, you were physically going. Yeah, you were physically going. You also had to, we were responsible as a group of artists for selling out those shows. So you would reach out to anyone that you knew in Victoria and say, hey, I've got 25 tickets I need to sell, help me out. Those ones we drove out to, so I would absolutely pack my vehicle up. My husband would come with me if he was able to, and you would have all your display stuff and all your lights and all your artwork. Ottawa we flew out to, so that was a little bit different. But yeah, it was a really cool way to see the country too.
And was this before social media and stuff? So when you're reaching out to people?
Yeah, it was totally before social media. Yeah, so it was very different. Yeah, you would, like I said, you had your tickets that you had to sell. There was a Night of Artists magazine. There still is that magazine, but that was really instrumental at that time for kind of getting the word out. You had invites that you were mailing out. Your contact list was really near to your heart at that point, because those were people that had supported you. And again, it was that ripple effect. You would reach out to people that bought your work in Grand Prairie to say, hey, I'm going to Victoria, spread the word if you know of anyone that wants tickets, and they would know what a great time they had in that show up there. And so, they would spread the word, right?
Yeah, because like you said, it was kind of an experience. It wasn't just seeing the art. Yeah, I'm curious, was there ever any a show that you had to put up that didn't sell out or didn't go well at that time?
Yeah, you know what? The Ottawa show was a bit more of a stretch, just because we had all traveled from so much further and didn't know as many people. And then also the venue that we were at was quite a bit larger. And so that one felt like it was a lot quieter. Yeah, we had a great music at each one. Again, Night of Artists, Phil was really supporting musicians as well. And so they would get different musicians for each place. And they also brought a crowd too, right? That was a whole other layer of it. So, yeah.
Oh, that sounds great. Yeah. I assume there was food and other things, and it was the whole...
Yeah, you would get it catered, and the music was part of it. There was always... or I think most times there was body painting, and that's who would be serving at it. It was licensed, so there'd be drinks. And one of the artists who's from Drumheller now, Vicky Myers, she would do all the body painting. So you'd have these men and women that were completely painted front and back. walking around, and it was very immersive, right? Like the art wasn't just around you; it was within you. And then his events really grew as well. There was a good chunk of years that I wasn't a part of it when I started having kiddos, but it really grew as well. He would have fashion shows. It grew to be multiple nights. Yeah, not just the one night. So yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's like a great experience. Yeah, I could talk about that for
Yeah,
a lot longer,
I
but
totally
it's
could,
about
yeah.
your journey. Yeah, and so I guess so you're involved with that group for a period of time, maybe on and off. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, what came next in your artistic journey?
I think next is probably when we moved down to southern Alberta here, and I set up my studio. We farm outside of Bow Island, and so I set up my studio, and it was in our yard, which was really important to me. That when we did start growing our family, I would still have my studio and my studio time, and it was near enough that you know, if the kids were having a nap, I could set up a baby monitor and zip out to the studio, because it was really important for me not only to kind of keep up what I had already been building, but for my mental health, like just to have a place to go. And creating for me was something, like I said, that I'd always done since I was a kid, and it's really a part of my daily of my day-to-day life. Yeah. So we moved down south. We set up the studio, started having kiddos, and I was in a handful of galleries at that time, and so really tried to keep up with the galleries as we raised our 3 kids, and yeah, also showing here in Medicine Hat, Inspire Gallery carried my work, and I did some art walks here in the summer, and different events like that. Yeah, a little bit closer to home, but I still had that connection up north of a lot of collectors and a gallery up north that carried my work. So.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because I said you had to, you know, for your mental health, you were doing it as well. But it sounds like after, especially after that Edmonton experience, or maybe it always was the case. It was like your art was always like you always wanted to make it professionally, right?
I did.
And
yeah.
And so to balance that out between having a family and still getting into studios.
It was a career that I felt like I could still do when I had babies, because it wasn't something like I would want to take off that 9 months mat leave, right? Like for me, that wasn't an option, right? Like I needed to be able to incorporate both things. And it was really cool too, because my kids grew up in the studio, right? Like we would have like the exerciser out there for when they were babies. And then they spent tons of time in the studio. My kids are really creative. During COVID, like that's where we all kind of hung out. So yeah, it was really special for them also to grow up with that.
Sounds like it didn't skip a generation, so that's good.
Yes. Yeah. No, they're definitely all creative kids in different ways.
Nice, that's great. Yeah, and so again, moving along in the journey, even though we could talk for hours about that. So you have a family, you're still making pieces, you're still exhibiting. What came next?
So that was pretty steady for probably about 15 or 16 years. Just keeping up with the galleries that carried my work, not traveling as much with it, which I was happy for that, because that was a really labor-intensive portion of it. And then Art Room on 2nd is a group of 4 of us, and we all started showing together around Medicine Hat, doing pop-ups, probably about 3 years ago now. And really trying to figure out how we could do this full time, and how to have a gallery space in Medicine Hat that people could come to, that could support the community, that could support artists, and could be a place for students to come and hang out and be inspired. There was a couple places in Medicine Hat, again, Inspire Gallery, which closed down recently, and a few other locations that showed fine art that had closed kind of recently. And this location was available, and we thought it was really quite perfect for an art gallery. The building itself and the location here on 2nd Street we really love. And so that was kind of, as my kids got older and I was venturing out and wanting to show a little bit more, that was kind of how that started.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, and how many of you are in the group?
So the 4 of us opened art room. So it's myself and Teresa Eisenbarth and Ursula Mazer and Jackie DeBlasio. And right now we've got 15 artists that are in the gallery here, and they're all local to Southern Alberta and Southern Saskatchewan.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, yeah. And so the 4 of you, like, what was that process like when you were like looking for the space or wanting to grow that way? Is it kind of like all 4 of you are quite collaborative that way?
Yeah, it was all kind of trial and error. We enjoyed showing together. We enjoyed the exposure in Medicine Hat. Our work showed very well together, quite different from abstract to my copper to paintings, landscapes, florals. Like, we really felt like we had a diverse group with just the 4 of us. Yeah.
So you meshed very well, obviously.
Yeah, we did. And all lovely women, business orientated, fantastic artists. Yeah, it was a great meeting of the minds.
Absolutely, yeah. And you recently had your grand opening here. How did that go?
We did. It was great. Very well received. We're feeling a lot of support from Medicine Hat. We joined the chamber, and they did a really cool ribbon cutting for us, which made us feel really special and very welcomed here on 2nd Street. And in Medicine Hat in general. Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah. And you mentioned like you're exhibiting other artists' work, like 15 artists, you said.
Yeah, I think there's 15 or 16 of us here now. Yeah.
And it's from kind of all over.
Yeah, throughout Southern Alberta and Southern Saskatchewan. Yeah, and we've brought on a few potters as well, and clay sculptors, and we have a lot of different mediums, and a lot of different mediums, a lot of different backgrounds of people. You can spend a lot of time here in the gallery. Yeah, it's a great space, and it's a nice size space, so we are really able to not only have like a couple pieces from each person, but really feature like a body of their work.
Nice, yeah. And I guess, you've recently opened, but I guess what would be kind of your vision for Art Room on 2nd of what it can become?
Yeah, my vision is really longevity. I would really like for the community to support the artists that are here, and again, I think it's really important for a community to be supportive of artists and to have a place for artists, and I really see this being a place for artists, right? Like I said, from students, for them to be able to come and see what it might look like if you wanted to try and sell your artwork when you were done school, right? Because that was something for myself when I was done school that I really didn't know how to go about that. There was a lot of trial and error. There was a lot of trying different things. So yeah, I really see this as longevity is what I would hope to have, and be able to support as many artists as we can, and be a place in the community for people to be able to come and hang out and come back multiple times, see what we have on display, and feature different artists and different shows and such.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. Yeah, like that really strikes me, like you mentioned, just that kind of that gap between, okay, I've graduated and I want to put my art out there, but maybe there isn't the opportunity, especially maybe in like Southern Alberta. Would you say that's the case? Or trying to get your pieces out there?
Yeah, I think that there's lots of opportunities in Southern Alberta, but as a student, you just don't really know about them, or even as an artist going from maybe a stage of your life where you're a hobbyist, or you're just emerging, or you're just doing it for yourself, and then wanting to go to that point where you're ready to share your art, and have some more feedback even from different artists. I think that that's also something that's really an opportunity that we can have here at Art Room.
Yeah, because it seems like based on your experience with your other group and your Art Room on 2nd group, it is about that community building and getting together. And
yeah, because as an artist, you spend a lot of time on your own in your studio, and for the most part, that's something that I love, like I crave that time where it's just me and creating and getting in that zone. But you also need to balance that with, you know, getting out there, possibly showing your work, or just spending time with other artists, collaborating on things, or maybe taking a class even, and getting to experience that.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I can't remember if you mentioned, but are you planning on having like classes here, other types of things?
A lot of the artists that we carry do teach classes, and Medicine Hat's great because they have a lot of different opportunities to teach, whether you're at the Esplanade or the Cultural Center. There's private places in town that'll rent out space. Some artists teach out of their own studios or teach at schools. So yeah, that's something that we want to be able to offer to people, not teaching classes right here, but to be able to say, yes, this artist has classes coming up in these venues.
Yeah, okay, more of the networking.
Yeah,
makes sense.
definitely.
Yeah, nice. Well, that's great. Yeah, I'm really excited for the space and what you've put together. It's really lovely. Yeah. I guess our last question, because we're running short on time here, we try to ask everyone is kind of very generally, like how has your artistic practice influenced your everyday life?
I think that my artistic practice is my everyday life. It is definitely a part of it. Even if I'm not out in the studio, say, every single day, I feel that creativity is something that I show when I cook, or when I decorate my home, when I get dressed in the morning. I just feel like that's something that is part of my everyday life.
Absolutely, yeah. You can't really separate the two.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And what I share with my kids too, right? I think that they probably, maybe they don't realize it, but they probably see it every single day. Yeah.
No, what a great example of someone like yourself, like their mom doing it and doing all this. I'm sure it's very inspiring for them. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, well, that's all the time we have for this segment. So I really enjoyed the conversation, getting to know you a bit and your artistic journey. So yeah, this has been TELUS STORYHIVE's On Location here in Medicine Hat at Art Room on 2nd. I'm Michael Bartz.
I'm Daniel J. Perryman, and this is me,
Erin Stelmaschuk Biegel.
All right, and we'll be right back.
Hello and welcome once again to TELUS STORYHIVE's On Location in Medicine Hat at the Art Room on 2nd. I'm Daniel J. Perryman.
Erin Stelmaschuk Biegel.
Yes, I thoroughly enjoyed your segments with Michael, and I'm super excited to jump into your showcase here and kind of see a bit more of your pieces up close and learn a bit more about your process. So yeah, let's just dive in with the pieces that are right behind us. So these are in the gallery here, and yeah, I'm just curious more so about like the how do you choose which pieces to put together, and what's the thought process behind that?
Okay. Quite often I create in collections, which is common for a lot of artists. Sometimes if you're working with some certain imagery, you might want to try it out, different sizes, different orientations, and play with that. And sometimes it takes a little bit more to kind of get it out of your system too. And you'll work on multiple canvases, in my point, multiple pieces of copper. So typically I like working in collections. They all hang very well together. And if people are collecting pieces, it's a nice way to kind of have things from different collections of an artist. Yeah.
Nice.
And then because my work is all predominantly nature inspired, it hangs quite nicely together. So this piece here in the center is called At the Foot of Sweetgrass. And I've done a lot of pieces with grain elevators. Growing up on a farm and currently farming, this is something that's really near and dear to me. This one here is a barn that it was from a photograph that I had taken, and this is down close to Writing on Stone. Yeah. And I'm currently working on some more pieces with the Sweetgrass Hills in the background. Yeah, so that's sort of an ongoing collection. The sunflowers on either side, they're something that I also really gravitate towards. It's the wild sunflowers that you see down here in southern Alberta. And there was a few summers. I feel like I also create kind of seasonally. So there was a few late summers, August, Septembers, that I was just creating with wild sunflowers. And all different sizes and shapes. These ones don't have any color in them. Some of the other ones in the gallery do have a little bit of color in them. And this is one here as well. Yeah, that's another one. This one's got a lot more color in it. So yeah, that's kind of how I like to work with collections. And like I said, sometimes it'll all be in one shot. Sometimes it's a collection that I go back to and keep creating, putting them together.
Oh, there's so much in there to talk about. One of the things I'm drawn towards is that idea of like getting a concept out of your mind and just like into the real world, into your hands. And so do you typically start large scale, small scale? Does it vary depending on the collection or the?
Typically small scale. Sometimes I'll do like kind of a trial piece. There was a collection that I did a few winters ago that was pine cones, and then it had oil pastels and resin. And I didn't even really know if it would all work together. So I did a little trial one. And the fun thing about the trial ones is I usually keep them. Like they usually don't get sent out to a gallery or put up for to be collected or anything like that. So they typically start out smaller as kind of a trial. And then I like to have a feature size, like a larger one that I get to play with, because that really changes the whole feel of the piece when you get to try it on a larger scale.
Yeah, and I'm super curious about this idea of like, what do mistakes look like in this discipline? Yeah, are there mistakes or are there happy accidents? What is that like for you?
Yeah, there definitely are mistakes. And the thing with the copper is you can't go back. So quite often mistakes get incorporated. Because my work is mainly nature inspired, like this piece, for example, I think if something wasn't quite right there in the grass, say, I would just play with it a little bit more and kind of push that portion of the piece a little bit more and see if I could incorporate it. I have done pieces before where I have really mucked up, and that just has to be put aside as a piece that did not work. Sometimes I will go back to them with different mediums when I'm experimenting with things, because then I've got a piece of copper that's got imagery on it, and I can try something different to color it, or with the resin, for example. So there's not a lot of stuff in my studio that's really wasted. Even my copper cutoffs, sometimes I make like ornaments out of them, and just different fun things like that. Yeah, so there's not a lot in my studio that's actually wasted, but it's probably an opportunity to keep learning as I go.
Right. Yeah, I love that idea of like permanence in what you're doing, and then also maybe the sustainability of it and not wasting things, and super interesting. Because yeah, I guess you also mentioned in your interview with Michael this idea of like copper kits. Is that still something you work with, or how is that adapted? And as somebody who knows nothing about the discipline, what might I expect to find in a copper kit, like to get started? What would you expect to see?
So it is a 12 by 12 sheet of copper, which can be used as is, or it can be cut up into smaller pieces. A lot of creatives have incorporated the copper into their own medium. So or into their own discipline. They'll use it in jewelry. I had one kiddo that was making birdhouses, and then they did their roofs out of copper. But if people want to try copper tooling, then I also give in the kits 3 or 4 tools. I use different wood tools and a stylus, which is common in a lot of different types of artwork, and then a silicone pad, because you want to have a little bit of give when you're creating with the copper. And then the kits are not like step by step like the copper tooling kits that I kind of talked about like generations ago, where you were going to do like a cowboy, say. Mine come with a sheet of tips and tricks. So different ways to trace onto the copper, you can do your own drawing on it with a dry erase marker, and it just erases right off. And different ways to color it. If you were wanting to cut the copper to incorporate it into something else, different ways to do that. So, yeah.
Right on. Very cool, very cool. And yeah, kind of, you also mentioned like seasonality of pieces, and you mentioned sunflowers, and there's some up here, but we do have one right with us, and potentially an image of it. But I'm gonna pull this up, and hopefully Michael can let me know if it's more or less in frame at some point. But yeah, this has color in it. Sunflowers. What can you tell me about this piece? Does it have a name?
This piece does have a name. I am going to have to look.
Yeah.
Rhyme and Reason to the Wild Outdoors is what this one is called.
Right.
Yeah. And so for quite a while, I was coloring my sunflowers. It would just be the copper with the patina. So the patina is what leaves the black impression in all the recessed areas. And this one I was trying out the turquoise in the background. So again, I did a really small collection of this. I think that there was just 3 pieces that I played with that turquoise to see how I liked it with the copper. And yeah, I really quite like it.
And what can you tell me about adding color to copper? How do you get it to stay, or is it just a time waiting game?
Yeah, no, this is acrylic. So the color is acrylic. I also have added color to copper with oil pastels and alcohol ink. Those are kind of the 3 mediums that I like to work with. So each piece gets treated with a chemical patina, and that's what changes it like completely black, like this. So the whole piece gets treated with that. And what that does is it accelerates the aging process of the copper, so you don't have to worry about it changing in your home. Yeah. So it changes it completely black. Then I wear a respirator and gloves and steel wool, and I scrub it all back so that the copper is shining and the black patina is just left in the recessed areas. So that's the only part that is a chemical process. All of the other color that you see in my pieces is much more controlled. So it's with the acrylic or oil pastel or alcohol ink. Yeah.
Very cool. Oh my gosh. Another thing that comes to mind for this is just that idea of hearing how some of your pieces don't go out into the world and they're just kind of yours to reuse and recycle essentially. And just that idea of like conceptual pieces and sellable pieces, and just how do you decide which pieces are going to go out into the world? Or is it like from the time you start a piece, you know that that one's going out? Or is there like a gray area with pieces? Or?
Yeah, for the most part, I would love all my pieces to go to homes. Yeah. I did have some ideas for more conceptual pieces when I was quite a bit younger, and I think with art school, that was something that we were introduced to, and to kind of try and wrap your brain around how that looks. And that's it's a different process, right? Because it's, you need to fund that somehow, right? So it's a really different process. But for the most part, unless my pieces don't turn out the way I want them to, they'll likely stay in the studio. But yeah, it's one of my favorite things is for people to collect art. I love collecting art. I love playing with art in my home, and really any space where you can do that. And I get really excited about taking something that I've spent many hours of solitude with and then getting to share it and hearing people's feedback on those pieces.
I do want to get on to the other pieces, but on that thought, like what has been like a memorable reaction or story to one of your pieces, if any come to mind right away?
One of the most memorable ones is a gentleman commissioned a piece for his wife for a Christmas gift. And literally Christmas morning, my phone was ringing, and it was a number I didn't recognize. And I picked up the phone, and there's this woman sobbing on the other end of the phone, and I didn't even know what was going on. I didn't know who it was. And then I realized who it was, and that she had opened up this piece of artwork Christmas morning. And then like she kind of pulled herself together, and we wished each other a Merry Christmas.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was crazy. She was so moved.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I kind of want to know what the piece was, but that's really beautiful. And let's take that into our next piece here.
Right.
So, yeah, what can you tell me about these beautiful pieces here?
Yeah, so the Western hats are a relatively new substrate for me. It was, I think, 3 or 4 years ago that the Calgary Stampede, I was a part of their artist gallery there, and they were giving out hats and asking the artists who were showing to create on the hats in whatever way they wanted, and then those were donated back, and the Calgary Stampede sponsors a scholarship program for kids. And so I was like, oh, maybe I can put copper on this hat. And so it was a white hat that I first did, and it was really well received. Again, I was advertising it like crazy and trying to share it all over social media so that they could get as many bids as they could, so it could go for as much as it could to support the kids. And people that had collected my artwork in the past were really excited about it. It showed really well at the Stampede. They had quite a beautiful setup for all the hats. They were all under glass, sort of like a museum display almost. And they, it was just really well received. The person that actually ended up bidding on it and purchasing it had it in their ranch office on display as a piece of sculpture. So they really went with it, and I got excited about it and kept creating more of these pieces. So yeah.
Beautiful, yeah. And I guess I'm just curious, I see some sunflower, I believe, over here.
Yeah.
And just so like, what was that like, kind of creating something to go on a piece of clothing, essentially? Like, had you ever worked in this shape before?
No, I hadn't. It was the first time that I'd done that. So designing it was really quite different. This piece has the full brim. Since I've been playing with it more, I've done some that have some copper up on the edges, and some that are not a full brim, who are just that have just kind of smaller pieces here and there. So yeah, I've really been able to play with it. But yeah, it's a whole nother design element to play with.
Yeah, no, super beautiful and such an awesome story of kind of making that a reality.
Yeah.
There is one more piece at least that I would love to touch base on. Can I put this on?
Yeah.
Oh my
Totally.
gosh, I really
yeah,
want to put it
they're
on.
definitely meant to be worn. Some people are, some people wear them and then put them on display when they're not wearing them. And some people, it's more of a sculptural piece for their home or their office.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a bit small. It doesn't quite fit. I have a big head. That's okay. That's amazing, though. It's got a bit of weight to it, which is kind of nice. I don't know, yeah.
That one is, it's actually like a winter weight, so the hat itself is a little bit heavier too. So,
Nice.
yeah.
One of the last pieces that I definitely want to talk about is the Aurora piece. And I just was so taken by the coloring of it. And just, can you tell me the kind of story behind that piece? And
Yeah. So I think the piece that you're talking about is over top of a grain elevator.
Yeah.
So the Aurora Borealis, so me growing up in northern Alberta, the Northern Lights were something that we enjoyed regularly. I know that the cycle that they're on, it is more prevalent the past couple of years down in southern Alberta. But growing up north, that was something that was really common for us. So I have incorporated them into my copper work, and there is kind of a different technique that I use when I do that. Sometimes I actually sort of scratch the copper and you get more of like a glint, and then I'll add some acrylic as well to bring out those colors. And quite often if you look closely on the Aurora ones, you'll also see constellations. So yeah, there's a lot to take in on those pieces.
Oh, that's awesome. And I love that idea of getting to play with your techniques with the material, and just, it sounds like there are some like fairly hard and fast rules, but then also trying stuff and seeing what happens from those. So beautiful.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. I do think that's the time that we have. Thank you so much for inviting us into the gallery and just giving us your time and energy.
Well, thank you guys very much for this opportunity, and thanks for wanting to come out to Medicine Hat and shoot it here at the gallery. It's great.
Yeah. This has been TELUS STORYHIVE's On Location here in Medicine Hat at Art Room on 2nd. I'm Daniel J. Perryman.
I'm Michael Bartz, and this is
Erin Stelmaschuk Biegel.
Thank you so much for watching, folks.